We've been tracking reps, and we've discovered that when they do this process, just what you're going to learn today, they're going to increase client acquisition by how much, Carl?
50%.
In
half the time.
Wow. What would your practice look like? I don't care where you're at right now. If you increased your client acquisition rate by 50% in half the time. What's interesting is, if you want the concept behind this, look at this screen right now, and you'll see a guy who's stuck on himself just like almost everyone else in this country. It's just human nature. Look at the guy who wrote this. This is Matthew Kelly, the author of Dream Manager, that says people are stuck with themselves. It's a human condition, and it's hard to cure. Well, if that's true, rather than fight it, why don't we just harness it and use it for the close? Now, I've got a question for Carl. Carl, in this box, it says that the rule of getting clients to sell themselves is what?
You can't pitch anything.
You can write that in the box. You cannot pitch anything. Some of you are saying, yeah, got it. But then we go watch you do closes and these assessments, and you're pitching stuff. Carl, why can't they pitch anything? Because it seems kind of cool, especially if you're a good pitcher, to pitch stuff. Why can't they?
Well, you can, but when we look at how to align people's values with their actions, if I'm pitching somebody on the qualities of a product and how neat this investment or this insurance product is and all the things that it can do, I'm not tying that directly to the person. And I may be able to invoke emotion, I may be able to invoke a lot of different things,
Yep.
But what happens is, what I'm going to do is ask Jason, or I'm going to ask whoever the person is that I want to move forward with a recommendation, questions to see if their values align with what this product has to offer.
Have you guys ever watched somebody that's really good at what they do in sports? Let's use a sports analogy right now. Just name someone who you admire in the sports world. LeBron James. Okay, we'll talk about LeBron James. Have you ever watched LeBron play basketball and said to yourself, that looks kind of easy? Has anyone ever done that? So what we did, and some of you are thinking to yourself, Jason, just get to it. Why are you explaining all this background? Here's why. I had to watch Carl and John and Matt and Chris do their closes again and again and again for 6 months so that we could retrofit an 8-step method that works every single time for any single style to get people to close themselves because they're stuck on themselves and not pitch again and ever again. 8 steps. You follow these 8 steps, and you can do this for anything. So here we go. Carl, before we get started, I want you to talk about water's wet and scared of being sold.
Yep.
What's this all mean? What do you mean people are scared of being sold?
Well, just in general, when you look at human nature and human condition, what happens is we want to do things that we know are going to be good for us. But there are times when people have the ability, and this has happened to me, I think it's happened to everybody, where you show up and it could be to a car dealership or you show up to a vacation place or whatever else, and you end up getting sold something where it's like you didn't really want it and it really didn't align with your values, but you're just like, whatever, I'm just not going to pick up that sword today. I'm just going to follow through with
just
whatever
going to do
person.
it.
Yep.
So what's this water is wet concept?
When you look at this, and we talked about this in prior sessions, what we're trying to do is create ultimate clarity. Where instead of assuming, what happens if I don't ask questions, like if I just say, hey, Jason, to be financially independent, you want to diversify your money. All right, but then I'm going to say, okay, so we should split up into these 3 accounts. What do you think? And you'd be like, well, I don't know, I got to think about that. Versus if I were to say, hey, Jason, if you want to save money, where should you put your money? And I ask the person questions, then there's certainty. It's the same thing as it's like water is wet. We know water is wet because most of us have felt water, otherwise we'd be dead. And so you look at that, or it's like, sky is blue, water is wet. What we're trying to do is create ultimate clarity when we're working with our clients.
Why is asking questions create certainty?
Well, it creates certainty because now what would happen is you would have to betray yourself, and this is something we talked about in prior sessions, where if I say, Jason, is saving money important to you?
And as soon as I say yes, I'd have to betray myself to not buy.
That's correct.
Did you guys hear that? I'm going to just stop for a second. If you ask the right questions, and if they say yes, which they almost have to because that's their value, and then they don't do what they just said their value is, they have to betray themselves to say no. And that's very difficult for someone who's what? Stuck on themselves. That's the concept. That's the secret sauce behind the algorithm we're about to do. But what's interesting is this is the one thing, closing by getting clients to sell themselves, that isn't unique to one of these styles. All of these guys do this. That's why they're at 90% versus 33. But if you watch most reps that aren't closing effectively, they're not listening for most of the session. They're what? They're talking. And they're not asking questions for most of the session. They're saying what? Statements.
That's correct. And the other thing, too, when you look at there's listening to listen and there's listening to respond. So you find yourself halfway through when the client is answering your question, you're already coming up with, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to say 2 seconds after they finish.
Yep.
Then ask yourself, are you truly listening? Are you listening to listen and understand, or are you listening just to respond?
That's important to write down. You want to listen to understand instead of listen to respond. Ask yourself, just in the last conversation you had today, while you were listening to someone, were you trying to figure out what you were going to say next, or were you trying to process, articulate, and say back what they just said to you? Here's how you do it. Carl's going to share with you the 4-step method to get them to sell themselves on anything. What's the first step, Carl?
The first thing is to ask leading questions.
What's the second one, Carl?
The second one is ask for the prospect's thoughts.
So first you ask leading questions. We'll define those in a moment. Then you ask for their thoughts on those leading questions you just asked. Third step?
Get a double commitment.
What did Carl ask yesterday to get a double commitment? Are you sure? Are you really sure?
Are you triple dog really
sure? And then what's the fourth one?
Rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. So what we mean by this is this right here. Look at this screen. You ask leading questions, you get their thoughts, the double commitment, and then it cycles around and around and around, and you do this again and again and again until they sell themselves.
One of the things that people will struggle with when they're looking to implement this is that they'll be like, well, what if this stuff, because this stuff's not important. Everybody, I work with people all the time, and this stuff's never important to them. They never want to get life insurance. They never want to get disability insurance. They never actually want to save money. But you have to think about it. Are you actually aligning people's values with their actions? Are all those people you meet with, is their values to not be responsible human beings? And chances are, if you really get to the core of it, their values are, they just don't have anybody who's helped coach them effectively enough to align their values with their actions. And that's what we're working with today.
So this 8-step recipe, I just want to point out, it's amazingly simple looking, but it's going to take you a while to assimilate it. Be patient with yourselves. But once you do, it's over. Like some of you are thinking, how do I just stay in this business more than a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it is? Once you can get this down, it'll be over. You're in. One last thing. On the screen in front of you, you'll see the difference between pitch selling and getting clients to sell themselves. A lot of people have been wondering, what do we even mean by this? So I'm going to go through pitch, and then Carl's going to alternate with getting clients to sell themselves. Here we go. So pitch selling is where you make statements.
Getting clients to sell themselves is where you ask good questions.
Pitch selling, I speak at my clients.
Clients determine their own answers.
Pitch selling, I do a hope and pray method.
You develop their own vision, ideas, and plans.
Who develops their own vision, ideas?
The client does.
The client does. In pitch selling, the client can actually say no.
In getting clients to sell themselves, it's hard for the clients to say no.
And why is it hard to say no again?
Because they are betraying their own values.
Because they're saying no to who?
Themselves.
In pitch selling, the client has to reject the plan. Have you ever had a client reject the plan? But in this,
the client has to reject their own ideas.
Which is almost, for most people, impossible. Let's get started. This is on page 187. We're going to start with you, and Carl and I made a specific choice to do this. We're going to start with a non-financial sale. But why are we starting with a non-financial sale, Carl? Why did we choose this?
Yep, on purpose. Obviously, everything here is on purpose. The reason is when you look at, how many of you guys out there have actually sold a pen in the past? Nobody. And that's exactly why. When we look at this, if we're going to talk about life insurance or investments, what happens is you already have your groove. You already got your grooves, and so to change those grooves is difficult. So what we want to do is teach you this method, and it could be a pen, it could be anything. It could be an orange, an apple, it could be water.
So this method works to get someone to sell themselves on anything.
That's correct. But so we want to do is create safety to try it with something that we haven't done in the past. So we can create some new grooves, and then we can bring those grooves over to what we actually do on a daily basis.
The first 3 steps of the 8-step method, first 3 steps are where you create what you're going to say in this close. First 3 steps are where you create what you're going to say, and the last 5 steps are what actually goes down in the close. It's actually saying it to the client. So here we go on page 187, step 1. I would highlight or star every single step so you can memorize it. Step 1, identify 3 unique qualities of all potential buyers. Notice it doesn't say 3 unique qualities of the product. It's the buyers. So let's try this. What does the product, a pen, allow people to do at the highest level? And the answer is it allows people to what? To write. Question 2, what does a really good pen provide people? What do you think? A really good pen gives them what? Satisfaction. We said reliability. So if you turn the page, a really good pen is reliable. And question number 3, how much can the prospect spend? By the way, the third question for this first step is always how much can they spend? How much can they invest? How much can whatever it is? How much can the person spend on a good pen? And the answer is probably around a few $100s if it's really, really good. So write those in the box on page 188. Try to remember them without looking again. What are the key qualities of pen buyers? Allows people to write. What's another quality of a pen buyer? They want to write. What else? They want it to be reliable, and they have about how much money? A couple $100. There it is. That is the foundation for the next 7 steps.
And one of the things to know is if somebody doesn't have a few $100s or if they don't write, then guess what they aren't? They aren't good pen buyers. And that's the whole point. Not everybody's going to buy pens. Not everybody's going to buy life insurance. Not everybody's going to save money for retirement.
Yeah, and how many of you guys have beat your head against the wall saying, why wouldn't they buy? Why wouldn't they buy? You know what Carl does when somebody doesn't buy? He goes, they didn't have the money. Or, they weren't interested in reliability. That works out pretty well because let's go find another person that is. Step 2 is you create leading questions around those 3 qualities. Now, before we create the leading questions, let's go over what a leading question even is. You ready? 4 things that a leading question is. Number 1, Carl, is what?
It relates directly to the unique quality of the buyer.
A leading question relates directly to those 3 things we just came up with. In this case, they have a desire to write, they want reliability, they got a couple $100. The leading question always relates to those 3 things.
And when you look at this, I mean, a leading question can also be a values-based question.
Yep.
Identifying somebody's values.
Good. Number 2.
They've already covered it in the fact finder. So you've already discovered this in the prior meeting because now we're in the close.
Number 3, third quality of a great leading close question is what, Carl?
It contains the word still.
Still?
Still.
Still.
And not still as in like I'm staying still, but still as in is this still important to you?
And number 4?
And there's the weird part for sales. It provides a yes-no answer.
There's only one answer, one kind of answer to a leading question. That's yes or no. Here we go. Let's try this for a pen buyer. Prospect quality number 1, bottom of 188. Audience, you're going to tell me this now. Watching the video, say these out loud. Even though I'm not there with you in the room, you can say these out loud. If they have a desire to write, what might a leading question be to ask them to see if that's true? I look at the prospect and I say, don't say it. They got to say it. What would it be? Is what? Is writing important to you?
Yep.
Perfect.
And even better would be, is writing still important to you?
Is writing still important to you? Because when would I have asked if writing's important to him? In the fact finder. In the close, it's going to be, is writing still important to you, Carl? Number 2, page 189. What was the second quality of a pen? Is it's reliable. So what would the question be? Those watching the video, shout it out in the room right now. He said, is reliability still important to you? Very nice. What's the third question? They have disposable income, but what's the question you'd ask to see if that's still true? What would you say? Do you still want to spend $300 on a pen? Mm-hmm. Very nice. What are we giving the client a chance to do every time we ask these? Say no, which is walk away. And when you do that, it has the opposite effect of what you'd intuitively think. Mm-hmm. I would intuitively think if I give them the opportunity to say no, they're just going to walk away. And what do they end up doing when we ask this?
Well, if their values align, they end up walking forward. And what's interesting too, and I think one of the things people talk about is they're like, well, what if I get myself into the situation where, we're here, the person showed up for the close, I've got a plan put together, I want to walk them through everything, but then this stuff isn't important to them. Well, don't waste your energy because they're not going to buy anyways.
That's awesome. You don't have to waste your time
and
with
the
a
other
client
thing too
that's going to leave you.
We look at this and I would look at somebody, I'd be like, all right, cool, well, it doesn't make sense anymore for us to meet. It was nice seeing you today. But hope
and-
all's well.
And I've seen clients that have referred other people to Carl just because he was so cool about that. Like, this guy, it didn't work out for me because I didn't have $200 to buy a pen, but if you got $200, that's your man. Okay. Step 3, we're still in the creation mode yet. We're not ready to role play, is to create your what? Discovery questions. Now, what a discovery question is, while leading questions lead people down a logical path, discovery questions find out what they want that path to be and ensure that they don't what? Get lost along the way. To that end, discovery questions, underline this, are useful in guiding the client to the next what? Leading question. Feeling questions. Just do me a favor. Put a star next to this box and assign yourself to read this. Step 4, Carl, it's time for us to role play.
All right.
So we're going to have a seat. We're in the close now for a pen. And we have all that we need now. We've got our 3 qualities of the pen buyer. We've got our 3 leading questions. Carl's got his discovery questions. He's prepared it all. And he's done his homework. He's done in the assessment for the close. And now he's ready to go in with a customer. Here we go.
So Jason, is writing still important to you?
Yes.
Okay, and as far as it goes with pens, what we talked about last time, you said one of the qualities that matters most to you is reliability. Is reliability still important to you?
Yes, it is. And by the way, so far, just a note, those are 2 leading questions. He came right with 2 right away. Keep
Okay.
going.
Okay. Jason, have you ever bought an expensive pen before?
What's that? Discovery question. No, I haven't. I've never bought an expensive pen before, Carl.
Okay. Well, but I know last time when we talked, you said that $500 was the budget you had to spend on a pen. Is that still the amount that you have to spend on a pen, or still the amount that actually you want to spend on a pen?
Yep.
Okay.
So in less than a minute, we just went through everything we created. In less than a minute, it's pretty much over. Like, he knows now. It's that do you feel like you just closed me pretty much in your mind?
I mean, it's gonna be pretty. Like you said, and I even said there, $500. Is it still what you actually want to spend on a pen?
Yep.
And,
So-
and when I say it, I'm almost saying pushing you away a little bit, where it's like, really, $500 on a pen?
Awesome. Let's go back to the fact finder for a second, Carl, so you guys can see how he fact finded me on this to get this out of me in the first place. So just follow along in the box. Carl, let's read through this one.
So Jason, is writing important to you?
Do you notice he didn't say is writing what? So he didn't say is it still important, because we're in the fact finder now. Yes, it is.
Good to know. And what qualities matter to you most in a pen if you're actually going to spend some money on a pen?
It's pretty. I like the way they look. I want it to be a little heavy in my hand.
Okay. And have you ever bought an expensive pen before?
No, I've never bought an expensive pen before.
All right. So I know writing is something you said you like, but at your stage in life, would it make sense for you to have a really nice pen?
What's he doing when he says but? Jason, I know X, Y, Z, but ABC. Whenever you say but, you're inviting them to walk away. Carl, let's keep going with the discovery agreement.
Okay.
So you asked me, you said, I know you like writing, but.
Yep. But at this stage in your life, does it really make sense for you to spend money on a nice pen?
Yeah, it does.
And is reliability something that's important to you?
Yes.
Okay. And so it sounds like
Wait a second. He just did the leading questions. He got through them. He did the discovery questions. He got through them. We're in the fact finder. And there's one last step. We haven't talked about this yet that he's going to do. Listen to it and then tell me what it is. Go ahead.
Well, so it sounds like you want a pen, but how much do you want to put towards this pen?
$500.
Are you sure?
Yes.
You can choose whatever dollar amount you want.
Yes, I'm
So
sure.
You want to be $500?
Yeah, so what did he do when he said, are you sure? Yeah, that's the last step. So we're going to see that coming up here in just a moment. But before he does this, on step 5, 193, you have to ask for his thoughts. Why is asking for his thoughts so important right now? Right now, at this moment, after the leading questions. Why? He's giving you the answers on how he wants to buy. Someone over here said he's going to sell himself. Let's watch it.
And it's surprising how well it works. Because what's funny is, more often than not, I'll tell people, like, hey, this is the recommendation, but just out of curiosity, what are your thoughts? And they go, sounds good. And I'm like, that's not really what I asked them, but that's what they gave me an answer that I'm not going to turn down.
But let's watch as somebody who doesn't say that. So
Jason, if I'm understanding you correctly, a couple things that you said matter to you most in buying a pen. You feel comfortable spending $500 on it, and reliability is what matters to you, correct? Correct?
yes.
But what's running through your head, and what are your thoughts?
I'm on page 193 at the bottom if you want to follow along. Carl just asked the part that says rep there. Okay, no, it sounds great. I mean, yeah, that's what I'm here to do.
Okay.
Okay, now let's turn to the next page and make it a little tougher. So I'm going to say this now to Carl. Well, I was really thinking about it, Carl, and I was thinking that maybe I want a pencil.
And then just so you know, one of the other reasons why asking for somebody's thoughts, as opposed to saying, is this something you want to do? Like, oh, I got to think about it. Well, if I say, what are your thoughts? Then I get to see what are the barriers in the way of them actually moving forward with something.
And in this case, my barrier is I'm starting to think I might want a pencil.
Okay, so let's talk about that, Jason.
And by the way, what's the analogy to, say, life insurance or wealth management? If
like, what would be the similar thing you might say? Well, gosh, I've been looking at all these different types of life insurance that exist out there. I just don't know really which one I want.
Okay, good. You guys catch that? So, Carl, I'm thinking I just want a pencil.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Tell me what's running through your head, and why are you considering pencils?
Well, sometimes my mind changes, and I want the ability to erase stuff, and a pen is kind of permanent.
Right there, that's like the crux of it. You just gave me meat on the bone.
What do you mean?
Because what happens is now I know what the hurdle is that we want to overcome.
What's the hurdle?
The hurdle is you want to be able to erase.
Okay, good.
Things.
So keep going.
That makes a lot of sense, and if I listen to you correctly, what you really want is you want to be able to erase things.
Okay, stop a second. He just said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if I'm listening to you correctly, what you really want is the ability to erase things. He's literally paraphrasing. He listened to understand rather than listened to what? To respond. So I'm going to say now, yeah, I would really like that, Carl.
So what if I told you, Jason, that you actually have, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but a pen that can actually erase. So if you make a mistake, you can erase it.
Keep going.
Would you like to learn about that pen?
That was key, what he just needed to keep going with. Would you like to learn about that? He's inviting me to do what again?
Ready to
go away. And so my answer is absolutely. So once he gets that, he has now achieved step 5, which is to ask me for my thoughts. And once he's heard me say absolutely another time, it's now time to get a what?
Double
commitment. Double commitment. So if I understand you correctly.
So if I understand you correctly today, if we could have a pen that you can erase, is that something you'd actually want?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes. Okay, now I want to say something that's absolutely hilarious because I said there were 8 steps, right? What's number 1? Identify 3 unique qualities. What's number 2? 3 leading questions. Number 3, 3 discovery questions. Number 4, ask the 3 leading questions. Number 5, ask for their thoughts. Number 6, get a double commitment. Number 7, introduce the products. How many of you have been introducing the products right away? Ooh, that might be why you're struggling. So let's move on to the last step. It's the 7th step, introduce the products. Remember, don't miss this as you're watching this and saying, oh, why are we talking about a pen? Get to the life insurance already. No, don't miss this. How is he introducing the products now? Listen, because you can apply this to life insurance immediately. Go ahead and introduce the products, Carl, on 195, 3/4 of the way down.
All right, so since we've talked about quite a few things, let's talk about the specific pens. Here are your 3 options.
Okay.
1, 2, and 3. When we look at the pens, I'll tell you a little about each pen. The first one, this is a fountain pen. The second one is a ballpoint pen, and the third one's a rollerball pen.
Okay.
I'll just say some brief things. They're all reliable. They all have a couple different costs. The fountain pen is a bit more to maintain because it burns through more ink, and it's more expensive. Most people prefer the rollerball because it's just easy. They don't really run out, and it's cheaper.
Do you think Carl at this point cares which pen I buy? Nope. He's going to offer 3 options he's cool with.
So let me ask you, just based on that, do you feel like you want something that's a little bit higher maintenance and prettier, or do you want something that's a little bit less maintenance? Still pretty, but less costly?
Probably prettier.
Okay.
So I said prettier. He's immediately going to paraphrase.
So if I'm listening to you correctly, you mean you want the one that's prettier and more expensive?
Yeah.
Okay. So that sounds good. So this is called the ABC Deluxe pen. It's going to cost $450. The reality is you can get this pen, but is there any other pens you'd want to look at?
Why is he asking me if there's any other pens I want to look at? Why do you think? He's trying to get an objection from me so he can make sure that this is a smooth road. Hey, here we go. This is the last step, which is called rinse and repeat. And it's the most important to the close. It's how you get the ink on the paper. Because now we're about to get him to say, yep, let's do this.
Yep.
So here we go.
So Jason, based on listening to you, my recommendation is to buy this pen. Obviously, you don't have to, but the recommendation is that it would make sense. But what are your thoughts?
So how long, by the way, I'm going to get to mine in a second, but how long did it take to get to the recommendation? It's like 95% of the way in. He finally gives me his recommendation. How many times did a pitch seller give a recommendation in the first 5 minutes? You know what, Carl? I think it's a good pen.
Okay. So is the ABC Deluxe pen actually the pen you want to get?
This is another double commitment. Yeah.
Okay. Well, sounds good. Well, let's draft up the paperwork to get the ABC Deluxe pen.
There it is. I'm going to ask Carl to do the whole thing now without looking. Here we go.
All right. So welcome back, Jason. It's good to see you.
That's good to see you, Carl.
Great. So today, correct me if I'm wrong, we're here to talk about pens.
We are.
All right. So just out of curiosity, is writing still important to you?
It is.
And I know last time when we talked, you said that one of the qualities that you wanted most was a high quality pen. Is that still the most important value to you in a pen?
Yeah, it is.
And then as far as it goes with how much you actually want to spend on a pen, I mean, we talked about a number last time, but do you actually remember what that number was?
Was it a couple $100?
I mean, it was, so do you remember what it was last time?
Actually, I don't remember.
So you said 500 last time.
500, okay.
But question is, so when we talk about how much you want to spend on a pen, is it still 500 or is it something else?
I think 500 sounds about right.
Okay, but I mean, so you get to choose. We can literally, I got pens that cost $1, I got pens that cost $5,000. I mean, if you're going to spend money on a pen, how much do you actually want to spend on a pen?
I got to stop for just a sec because what he's doing is so cool. What's happening right now? What's happening? Can you say it? What'd you just do?
Well, I'm making it certain as to what you're going to actually spend on a pen.
He's making it certain. He wants to make absolute certain, like water's wet, that I want to spend $500 because he can tell I'm starting to wiggle a little here. Did you feel that? So you're making this certain now, so you don't have to worry about it later.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, I think 500 is actually right.
Okay. So $500.
Yes.
So we got a bunch of different types of pens here, and there's three, based on listening to you last time, I think they make the most sense. There's this fountain pen. It's a little bit prettier, heavier to maintain, a rollerball pen, less expensive, and then I've got like this Bic pen that's really inexpensive.
Okay.
But as far as it goes for you, if you had to look at those three pens, which pen do you think you'd actually be interested in?
Probably the prettier one.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
So is there any other pens you'd want to check out?
No, I like the pretty one.
So that's the one? All right. So you don't want any other pens other than the ABC Deluxe pen?
No, that's the one.
All right, sounds good. So we'll draft up paperwork to get the ABC Deluxe pen.
And there it is. What do you guys think? You think you could do this?
Well, you get to do it with a power cord now.
So let's try it. Turn to the person next to you to go ahead and get the client to sell themselves on this electric device. Let me just real quick. What's this product allow people to do? Power up electrical devices. What's a really good, unique version of it? Allow people to do ease and convenience, saving electricity. How much can prospective buyers spend? They can afford the more expensive one. What's the leading questions? Is powering up electrical devices still important to you? Is comfort and reliability still important to you? Is $15 still within your budget? What's the discovery questions? What qualities matter to you most in a power strip? Have you ever bought a power strip before? Tell me about your previous experience with power strips. Go.